Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Trending. Today's Thursday, August 8th, about 9:30 as we're recording. Good morning, Joe.
How's it going?
Good. I've noticed recently that the intro to this is the exact same every single time.
Is it?
Yeah, I think it's the date, time. Good morning, Joe.
Yeah, we need to change it up. Maybe I should have a different wig on.
That'd be great.
People have no idea what's gonna.
Do you have some wigs lying around?
No, not really. But it could start with you, and then you zoom out and
I'm just saying,
he's got a mullet.
All right, man. Well, as always, there's a lot going on in the world. The Olympics are still going on, and we were just chatting. There's still some just cool things happening in the Olympics, and it's a fun time to kind of just keep an eye on those stories and lots going on in the world. I grabbed a headline that I thought we haven't talked about this exact thing. I think it'd be good for us to talk about. So, There's apparently some new. Right now, it's just a rumor. It's someone got a screen grab of a potential of what a new Twitter or X layout could be. I guess they're kind of playing with what their home screen and their timelines will look like, and they might make some changes to it. So, this, if it's real, the screen grab that somebody got showed that they're at least on your home screen on X. It will no longer show how many likes or retweets or comments a tweet has. So it's just tweet, and there's no feedback.
Right.
And so there's been, over the last few years, some experiments with Facebook and Instagram. I think right now, if you want to, you can opt in, or you can have certain posts do something similar where it won't show how many likes or comments there are, or you can disable comments if you don't want to have any comments on your post. So whether this Twitter thing ends up happening or not, this seems to be a thing where the social media giants are playing with hiding some of those numbers, because I think they're finding that, of course, that's causing psychological drama and psychological anxiety for people. Let me read one quick quote from an article I read. So this says, teen depression started to rise around 2012, a time that coincides with the popularity of smartphones. That was around the same time that likes on posts became common. And the algorithm started to become more sophisticated to keep people on social media for longer. There's clearly not a coincidence. So that's from a psychologist from San Diego State University. So there's kind of this growing thing of there's more and more research, there's more and more anecdotal evidence that social media at least has some pretty serious downsides. And there's some things that we need to at least be aware of. And since it's really, historically speaking, new still, we're still figuring out what do our brains... How can our brains deal with all these algorithms and all this stuff that we really don't have a whole lot of control over? Mm-hmm. And I think we're realizing more and more that when we're left to just our own willpower and self-control, our brains can't beat the algorithm. We're just so wired for the chemicals that come, the dopamine and the whatever. Mm-hmm. We really can't control the urge to just be so addicted to social media. And so that's becoming more and more known. So they're trying to figure out what to do with it. So let's just get things rolling here. What are your first impressions when you hear some of that?
Well, I think I'm glad that you clarified, because I think that is an issue. Obviously, there's been even some congressional panels where they've hauled these people in and they've confessed, and they even have done these trials where they just take an average teen, particularly teen women, and they give them exposure to Instagram, and they begin to measure their self-worth and maybe eating disorders and things like that. And there's certainly, they think, a correlation there. I think when you first brought it up, I thought, I don't know, if you've ever been on social media and you look at the comments on just some random, very objective post, people are unhinged, and they will self-promote, or they'll put links to their thing that they're selling on there and stuff like that. So I feel like that gets in the way of a great. I think the reason that Twitter is good and has been good historically is because it does create a bit of a discourse where you can put something out there and people can get into conversation, asynchronously, and they don't have to be in the same location. That was the power, the public square, feel of Twitter. But then it just so quickly gets occupied by just angry people and stuff that's just so scary. Even some of the comments that come out, and people need to be monitored because of their violent rhetoric, their incendiary, rhetoric on there. So it's an interesting attention to me. I think the reason that people post stuff on social media is to connect. Yeah. It is to show, and also that those connections can lead to more connections, right? Mm-hmm. And so what does social media turn into if some of the mechanisms to be connected and to interact with one another go away, right? And it just turns into I don't know, a place where you and I post our personal information for the fun of it. I mean, I have no idea. So it's an interesting tension that they're trying, like they have to build here or to manage here. And where does it go from here if they truly limit ways in which people could see impressions being made? So it's going to be interesting in the days ahead, in my mind.
I think, again, they're in the very early days of this, and this could all be rumors, but I think it's timely because I think people are talking about it, whether this ends up happening or not.
Right.
But one of the things I saw said that you might still be able to, like if I post something, I might still be able to see if you like my post or not, but it's just not visible to everyone else. So that there might be some kind of layers of this.
Okay.
Or maybe you can see the comments, but you have to actually click on it instead of it just being visible in your timeline.
Gotcha.
So I don't know. I think they're playing with some potential options there.
Right.
But on one hand, like this, it's going to hurt the platforms, I think, because the platforms want the influencers are going to want people to see how many likes they have. Like if you're kind of making money off of being an influencer, it helps them to know how many likes they have and their advertisers to know how many likes they have. So for Twitter and Facebook and Meta, it's probably going to hurt them a little bit if they implement some of these things. But they might either feel pressure to either from Congress or just socially to do some of this stuff.
Yeah.
One thing I saw, the only, I think, potential downside that people have said about this is that it might make it less easy to find or to see like spam or bot content. Like if things if a random post has 10 million likes and 4,000 comments, it's easy. It is just red flags and maybe this is spam or bots or something like that. So it might be a little bit harder to kind of weed some of that stuff out if that stuff's hidden. But, I don't know. What do you think about just the social media addiction side of things?
Yeah.
Because I've noticed for myself, like I wish I spent less time on it, but it's just a habit. And I think most of us feel that way. We know it's not good for us, but it's just so ingrained and our bodies are used to it. And we kind of default to the scroll. And have you heard of Brick?
Yes. Yeah. I've been seeing, and I'm going to see advertisement on it now because
now everyone will.
Yeah. Here we go.
If you're not familiar, it's this little Bluetooth device where you can tell your phone, hey, during these times, block all social media, block YouTube, block whatever, and don't let me get into it unless I put this brick on my phone. Like it's kind of this added layer of self-control, I guess.
Right.
Like your phone won't let you do anything unless you physically put a device on top of it.
Right.
And I'm kind of considering getting one because I think I would like it if I spent less time, but I just find myself, I'm just doing it kind of habitually. So what do you think about just the addictive nature of it?
So I think we just have to once again analyze, why are we going to social media? Why do we use it?
Yeah.
And I think it's on both sides of one who just views it and consumes it.
Yeah.
And then those who post.
Mm-hmm.
I think those who post a lot, I think you have to ask yourself, like, why do I feel the need to put these types of pictures and this many pictures out there in the world? People come up with justifications and the reasons, and that's up to them. But I think it'd be worth every now and again just having a moment of reflection. We've talked about a lot in the Christian life. We've certainly addressed it here on Trending. Like, the unexamined life is not worth living. So instead of just being on autopilot all the time with our lives, like we need to truly examine motives on all things. And it's not to always put our lives through great scrutiny, but the Christian life tells us that we have one life to live. And can you imagine if we get to the end and we look back and we say, I wasted a lot of time, posting stuff on social media and then agonizing over how many likes I got with every post? Like, that would just be a sad reality. So I think we would do need to examine it. I think for consumption, are we going out there to honestly look for news articles? Because I feel like social media has helped the way that we consume news. Now news comes to us instead of us going out there looking for news. And so sure, you open up Instagram, you open up X or Facebook, like you can get news. There's another area to that. Well, is this news good or not? And so I have loved how there's like the fact checking feature on these things. And so it's good that it's being updated by, as they monitor consumption and how people use it and some of the damaging effects to it and stuff. But you're right. I had a professor in my doctoral ministry program. He said our brains can make more addictive chemicals than what you could buy on street corner. Like, there is some sort of gratification because of the chemicals splashed in our brains that makes addicted and drawn to stuff. And so I guess it's just worth saying, why am I spending so much time here? Is this actually beneficial for my life and stuff? And I think these like brick things are good. But then I think even that needs examination, because I can see particularly religiously driven people saying, this is a badge of identity. Look at me overcoming the algorithm, rat race, and everyone else is not. Aren't I better than them? Like, we could actually not use it to actually better our lives, but also to judge people around us who are not doing that, who are being swept away by the algorithm stuff. So I think that we also have to evaluate, why am I going to buy this device in the first place? Because
so you can post about it.
That's right. So you can post about it.
Yeah.
My first question was going to be, are you sponsored by Brick? No. Since you brought it up here, right?
No ad. No hashtag ad.
So this is it's an ever-present thing. We are trying to reckon with the frailty of our nature, but also the power of who we are. That Psalm 8 passage continues to inspire me again and again, that even though we're created lower than the heavenly beings, we are crowned with glory and splendor. Like, there's something absolutely magnificent about the human creature. And one of our superpowers is that we amplify things. We make things big. The things that we admire, the things that we adore, we tend to make big, right? And so if that's our work role, our role in church, or an athlete that we enjoy, or a restaurant that we enjoy, or even some of our activity on social media, we can't help but project things to make things bigger. And so as the Christian, we just simply say, now that I've been redeemed by Christ, and my whole vocation is to glorify God and to enjoy Him forever, as the confession says. What does that look like on a social media platform? And it's not kind of like the nauseating things that sometimes Christian influencers do. Okay, with that, which I find myself avoiding them, because I'm like, this is so cringeworthy sometimes. But as a Christ follower, what can I do to make the Lord's name known, and to make as the scriptures say, to adorn the gospel with every activity of my life, including what I do online.
Yeah, that's good. One last question I'll toss at you. So you mentioned the unexamined life isn't worth living. Is that Thoreau? Who is that? It's one of those guys.
Socrates, man. The
Socrates.
OG. Yeah, the OG.
Way before. Okay.
Yeah.
But I was thinking about that too, because I think a lot of times we default to social media or something else because we kind of want to be distracted, right? The world around us is complicated and messy and big and loud, and we just kind of want to let our minds get out of it for a second. I think we don't necessarily do that intentionally or thoughtfully, but I think that's what we do. We kind of, this is too much. Let me just see what's happening here. I think we kind of default to that.
Yeah.
And there's other ways that we do that too, I think, but I think social media is maybe the one of the most prevalent ways that people are, whether they're doom scrolling, whether it's just, they're just trying to, they kind of enjoy keeping up with the bad stuff. That I think we all kind of do that also. Yeah. But for a lot of us, I think it's just a momentary escape from the world that we're in. So, and I think some of us too are kind of afraid of being alone with our thoughts and afraid of being still, afraid of being quiet. So do you have any advice for if someone finds themselves just defaulting to scrolling, what's a alternative that we can work towards?
Sure.
Do you have any thought about that?
I think that exercise isn't negative. I do think that there's actually something quite positive about retreating from everything that's pressing around us, and have another timeline that you tend to. As I continue to work through the Revised Common Lectionary and the liturgy just of the scripture reading of the church, what I actually find it very valuable that you can follow a different timeline than the timeline in your world for perspective. Okay. So right now in the lectionary, we're following the timeline of David. This week's reading was when Absalom, his son, basically did a coup, kicked him out of the capital, and David's trying to reckon with all that. There's something neat about thinking about that timeline so that I can get a break from the constant timeline of a campaign season of this headline trying to capture my attention. This person said this, and you should be outraged about it, and so on and so forth. So I do think that it's actually healthy, right? Okay. Yeah. But I think that we have to, once again, examine ourselves and say, hey, and all that I've done in a given time frame, today, this week, this month, do I find that I've advanced godliness and Christ-likeness in my life? And something that I may have mentioned before on trending is, so the last day of every month at noon, I've got in my calendar app 2 questions that I have to ask myself. Came from Dallas Willard. Basically trying to get to, am I becoming more easily irritated these days or less? Am I becoming more loving or less loving in these days? So I do think that there is a need and a necessary for us to kind of like pause everything.
Yeah.
And to do some reflection. To fill that vacuum with doom scrolling is probably not wise. It probably doesn't lead to a healthy end. But maybe something that brings leisure and delight or even levity could be good. One of the things that I enjoy with Instagram right now is a good friend of mine, Greg, and I, we're both busy. We don't have a lot of time to just sit down at Chipotle and catch up what we normally do. So we're just sending funny reels to each other, and hopefully it's not at the expense of like laughing at the expense of somebody else. But it's just so funny because it helps deepen our connection as friends as we laugh together. And so I think that's moderately healthy. Could we do something more healthy? Probably.
Yeah.
But it's good enough for now. But I enjoy opening up Instagram because I know there's a good chance something from Greg is going to be in there.
Yeah.
And it actually like brightens the day a little bit. And so I hope that that's okay. So I think that there's positive things about it.
Yeah.
But I certainly think that we need to, once again, just have some sort of a measurement of reflection. Socrates surely said that. But even the Apostle Paul said that. Examine yourselves to see whether you're in the faith.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of questions you can ask in that regard. And there's a lot of things that we can measure in that regard. And so I hope that that's something that we commonly do as a Christian, but also collectively in the life of the church. It can be healthy.
This is one of those things where I'm curious. I wish I could fast forward like 100 years. I'm just really curious.
Yeah.
Like, is this going to only snowball and get crazier and crazier and crazier? Or is there going to be kind of a dramatic split where we're just like, you know what? Enough of this. Let's get rid of social media and just have a simpler. I could kind of see both things happening.
Yeah.
I could see there's just more and more platforms that get more and more addictive. Or I could see Gen Z and future generations being like, this is only adding stress to my life. There's got to be a better way. I could kind of see both happening. I'm kind of curious where culture will take us. But.
I do think if we look at if past is prologue, there's always going to be the Luddites, those who like walk away. And there are going to be those who say, no, there's so much money to be made here. Like there's an economic incentive of keeping this thing around and like keeping it in drive. Yeah. Even like overdrive. Then there's probably a synthesis of those two perspectives. Yeah. Hopefully that allows us to use it in a more healthy and productive way than just like no rules. Money's the only rule here. So I think that that's what I hope. And so if past is prologue, it's probably there's an iteration down the road that looks something kind of like that in my mind.
Because like you said, there's a ton of valuable things that come. I don't mean to harp on it too much because there's a lot of very valuable things that come out of it. And I use it all the time. Yeah. But it does seem like we might be heading towards something needs to change. So we'll just see what that looks like.
I think so. If I could put on a philosopher's hat, like one of the things I think we need to tend to is I do think that there's a fair amount of people in our culture, society, who have like two selves. They have a social media self that's carefully curated, just the best pictures, just the best videos, the things that they know are going to get likes and stuff like that. And then when the cameras are off, like they are a different person. And the thing that you worry about is what happens if those two selves are at odds? Yeah. You can't manage both those worlds because you're basically creating a world that doesn't exist, and you have to like tend to it. You got to add to it. You got to like continue to give it life, but also like maybe trying to partition that off and try to be yourself too. But once they have to sit on the couch of your soul side by side, it's kind of like an older brother, younger brother, older sibling, younger sibling, like constantly getting at each other, and then you have to tend to it. And so I think what the church work part of this. I'd have to deal with like a recovery program, redemption program for when somebody wants to finally reckon with who I was online, who I am in real life, like we have to probably give them a redemptive solution because you can't just deny that, run from that, hide that. Like that might have to be reckoned with because these people are truly thinking they're living life online, and they also got the rest of their life too. So how do you how do you reconcile all that? And so I think that might be a significant edge of church work. In the days to come, because there's just so many multitudes, millions of people who spend a lot of their life online, and so, but when they want to like deal and try to find peace and solace after a flurry of activity, hopefully we can give them an answer. Because I think that's where some critical church work might need to take place. So
agreed. Okay, well, we'll see if this X thing comes to pass.
Yeah, and what'll happen.
Yeah, and if they do, probably, I'm guessing these things snowball. So what will Instagram and what will Facebook do? And like they all kind of copy each other. So it'll be interesting to see where.
And then maybe a new platform, that says, you can diss all of them and join us.
Right.
And there's money to be made there.
Yes. Well, we will follow with great interest. I bet this will come up again some other time.
Yeah, man.
So, okay, good thoughts. Thank you, Joe.
Yeah. Thank you, Matt.
Thanks to you. And, of course, we'd love to have you on Sunday if you're around in Wichita. Feel free to join us as we're continuing our Philippians series. We'd love to see you on Sunday, and we'll be back here next week.
Yep. All right.
Okay, thanks, guys.
See
Have a
you
good
next
one.
time. Yep.